I had to
Okay.
find it. Okay, here we are. So we're going to start with the statement of financial position. And as you know, so this is not only the end of the fourth quarter, but the end of the Rotary year at June 30th. So we have money in the bank, in the checking account, 117,000. There was $293 in the PayPal account, which has now been transferred over in July. And we have no liabilities. I'm just going to move on. If someone has a question, just stop me. This is the statement of activity for the year. So up at the top, we have the revenue that has come in. So we got contributions. We have two categories in DRF with donor restrictions, which means the donations were made and are designated in for a certain purpose or a certain county. When we'll see that chart in a minute. And then we have without donor restrictions, which means we can use the money for anything. So we keep, this is how much money came in, 59,000 came in that was for Ukraine and the earthquake fund for Humboldt del Norte. 4,300 came in for general. We got $25,000 from the Rotary Foundation. That $5,000 was a return of a grant that we issued the last fiscal year that was not used. So that came back in as income for this year. We had a very small amount of fees, a few bank fees, a few PayPal donation fees, and that was it. And then the total grants that we made, 69,000 for Humboldt del Norte and 35,000 for Ukraine.
Just
So,
as a point of clarification, Carol, that $5,000 that was returned, which unrestricted fund did it go into? Or restricted fund, excuse me. Was that a Humboldt?
We'll see it. No, that was Napa, I think.
Fire. Okay.
Was that from the glass
Story-
fire, I assume?
But Story City Media was a business. Then we tried, and what it was, and I spoke to the person who was in charge out there, and it was a photographer who was working there and was given a grant, but apparently left the area, closed the business, and never cashed the check, and numerous attempts to reach out and find out if he wanted to use the grant went unanswered. And we finally said, we wrote letters, a couple letters, and said, we're going to rescind this and stop payment on the check. And that's what we did.
Then that $5,000 should go back in the Napa fund for unrestricted.
That's where it went.
Okay, great.
You see, it's in the column that says donor
Okay.
restrictions. Yeah, it did. And if we look at the next report, which is the asset tracking report, and you can't see it on here because it was last year. This is only this year. And you folks can probably make this bigger. I don't know whether that's too small for people to read, but if you can see here, this first column is Mendocino, and then Napa, Cloverdale, that's used up. I should probably just close that column. Sonoma, Mendocino, this is General Napa, has 24,000 in it. Ukraine had some money in it, but that was all dispersed. The Ukraine Calendars Fund, as I said, we had $441 left in there that we transferred to Santa Rosa East West because they're managing that now. And then here's the Humboldt del Norte Fund, $4,899 is left in that fund. So that's the total with donor restrictions is 108,000. Without donor restrictions is 9,800 for a total in the checking account of 117.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and pause there for just a second. So the one thing I think that's important to remember about this too, and I'm sure Dirk is thinking the same thing, is that we got to make sure that the area governors in those areas know that there's some money available. Because Dirk, this money, the restricted money, can be used also for education and prevention. Is that correct?
Yes, you can.
I got both of you.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important point because I don't know that people realize that they can use it proactively before there's actually an emergency to do that kind of planning work. And that's a fair chunk of change there, as you can see on those amounts. So.
Dirk, is it possible that you could shoot me some sort of an email explaining that so that I can go ahead and make that available then to the AGs?
Sure, I can do that.
All right, that'd
That's
be
for
great.
prevention of, disaster relief. There's disasters before it happens. I'm sure.
Great,
You
thank
just
you.
probably want to be specific in what they can use it for, right,
Yeah.
Dirk? You just
Yep.
want to give them some specific examples, or they can leave it in there and save it is the other thing too.
Are there any other questions on this? Okay, I'm going to move on.
We need go ahead.
We've got, this was a list of the business recovery grants that we issued. Of course, there was a first burst of that $5,000 that we gave out in gift cards in December, right after the earthquake happened, which was done very quickly. We were extremely agile. I think it was just amazing and really a great thing. And then here's a breakout of where that money went for those business recovery grants for each of the areas. And we did a great job. 64,271.48 was given out in grants.
There's one thing that I would like to throw in as a matter of just the record. A huge shout out, thank you to Coast Central Credit Union up in the North Coast. We were short. We had about 7 grants, Carol, is that right? We didn't have enough money to fund.
Right.
I had sent out a couple more emails with some asks just for the district membership to forward out. And then we picked up the phone and we called Coast Central Credit Union. It came from a visit that I was doing, an extra visit I was doing in Crescent City, and asked Coast Central Credit Union to make up the difference, and they made up the difference and then some, which is the reason that there's a surplus there for Humboldt. So they came in at the end and gave us, I think, $8,000, if I remember correctly. 8,500. And so anyway, it was they did it without any question at all. So huge shout out to them for helping make up that difference for us.
And
That's
I
great.
also wanted to give a huge shout out to Ian Schatz, who was so instrumental at managing so much of this stuff. Every single one of these checks that you see on the screen was not sent directly to the company. They were all sent to Ian at his address, and he arranged with his team, who went out and individually interviewed all these businesses, and they did individual presentations of a real check. And I really think that he felt that really made a difference. And I think it was just a monumental amount of work and really working with these folks. And Ian deserves a great amount of praise.
That is really what a Rotary really works good at doing it specifically that way. We've been through it a couple of times, and you get a lot of tears, you get a lot of hugs. It's a really great experience. And Ian did a great job. I can definitely agree with that one.
Yeah.
I just have one question on that. Did you guys get any publicity up north from that? Rotary did all this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, Cindy Denbo wrote a beautiful press release with a photo. I went up and did a check presentation photo with the folks from Coast Central Credit Union and Ian, and then Cindy created a press release that went out to all the local media up there.
Awesome.
All right. Is that it, Carol?
That's it. That's
All
all
right,
I know about financial stuff for DRF.
Can I get a motion to approve the financial report for the DRF?
Jennifer will make a motion to approve the financials from the DRF.
I'll second.
Jim seconds. And any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thumbs up. Okay, thank you, Carol. And the next one is that on the homepage of the website, we have a a block there that was talking about the disaster relief for Humboldt County. And I would like to make a suggestion that we use that space to ask Rotarians that get to that page to be able to make a donation into the disaster relief fund. And I know that we've had the conversation about trying to allocate to specific areas. I'd like to make a general plea that disaster can happen anywhere, and your donation, if it goes unrestricted, can go to any of those areas that come up in question. However, if you choose to make a donation to your specific area, you can do that as well. Just something to that effect that would allow for us to keep something on the homepage. And as we now, in many areas, face the the threat of the fire season, I think that it's probably a good idea to make that switch now.
I agree.
Tom, could you just clarify again what you wanted to say?
I'd like to be able to say that disaster can strike at any time, anywhere, and we would like to, if you would like to help us to be prepared to help those who are going to be in need, plan to make a donation, and then give them the option to have an unrestricted donation, which then could go and flow to anywhere in the district that has a problem. Or if you choose and you'd like to have your dollars go to a specific location, then they can allocate those dollars back into whatever that specific area is. Much like
I guess the only thing I was questioning in the verbiage was that it be clear that it's within the district. So they're not, it's something in New York or something.
No, within the district. And the verbiage would be very clear that it is for District 5130.
I would agree. Yeah, I'm looking at the page right now, and we do need to take the Humboldt section off. Also, I like the quote that's on there, Tom, but if you want to put either Dirk's name as the chair or your name as the district governor is the one who said it, you can remove my name off of there.
Okay.
If
Right,
we have,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
if we have multiple things going on where there might be multiple things that they could donate to, I'd really like to talk to you about making it super clear. I know it's tough right now to do like radio buttons or something that they can check where they can say, I want it to go here, I want it to go here. For me too, when I see something come in, and very often the stuff comes in through PayPal, or the checks are pretty clear because people will write on their checks. But if we get a big PayPal thing, we might want to put it online and talk about it so that it's very clear for me, so that I don't have to chase after it. I'm trying to.
So
Why
on
don't
the
I work with
website,
you, Carol, to come up with that, and then we'll go ahead and make that.
hold on. I'll just stop in here. So the website, we cleared that up quite a bit, Carol, last year. So the only thing that needs to be adjusted off, and I can share my screen if you guys want me to. The only thing that needs, it says, please apply my donation to pick one selection. You just need to remove the earthquake relief radio button. The other is just the 5 counties, or the 5 counties. So they only have the choice of putting it into the general fund, unrestricted, or designating it to be restricted to a county, and that's it. Once you remove that earthquake relief,
that's fine. That's fine. That's good. Thank you. Thank you.
Great. And by the way, I want to welcome Darren. Hey, Darren, you weren't here, I don't think, for us when we voted you in. So welcome to the board, Darren Patterson.
Welcome, Darren.
I know he's there because I've been texting him. So
All right, cool.
Just let us know you can hear us, Darren.
So the next, and we basically, prior to the meeting having the quorum, we had Bert talk to us about the bylaws. Mary will be sending the new copy of the bylaws, which Bert was kind enough to adjust for us last year, and we'll make that available on the website. Again, thank you, Bert, for that.
I have one question on that, if I may step in. Is it just the voting members that need to sign that, or does the secretary and treasurer need to sign that?
This is on the conflict of interest.
Yes, on the conflict of interest.
You know, I don't off the top of my head know what the correct legal response to that is, but if people are managing the funds and doing other things related to it, even if you're non-voting, it may be nice to sign it. It certainly doesn't hurt
Okay,
And it's probably a benefit. I can look it up if somebody doesn't want to sign it, but other than that, I would say just sign it. And then I have another comment about the bylaws, before we move on. So I do have the version that you sent over to me, Mary, with your signature, so thank you for that.
okay.
But when I first looked at it this year, before this meeting, I noticed that the list of the members was the same that we had in 2018 when the disaster relief fund was formed. And because the amendment was voted on by the board that was current in 2022, I think that addendum needs to be brought up to date for the official version of the bylaws. So I would, whoever has that list, simply create a new addendum similar to that one. And then technically, I would expect the secretary from last year to have signed it and not Mary. Were you the secretary last year, Mary?
I was.
Well, then your signature is perfect.
Good.
Yeah, I noted that as well, Bert. And so that'd be great if we could just update the names of the board members from last year that voted it in.
It
Right,
sounds
that's
like I
my
probably
only-
should sign that too, Bert.
I beg your pardon, Dick? Sure.
It sounds like I need to sign one of those too. So,
Yes, one of the
Be
conflict of
payable.
interest waivers, yes. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'm gonna go off and enjoy my Saturday, and thanks for all the hard work all of you are doing.
Hey, Bert, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, one last thing. I was listening to the discussion regarding the designation and everything. And I went back and I looked at the provision in the bylaws. The reason you were able to get money out that was unallocated to Ukraine was that we don't specify in or out of the district for these funds or for the education. So just keep that in mind when you're soliciting the donations, because people may, you know, and you're kind of covering it, but it is unrestricted. I mean, unrestricted money can be used anywhere in the world, as you have. So it was drafted broadly on purpose at the beginning when the original board put that together. But anyway, that was just a comment to be careful of. So, okay, thanks, guys.
Great, thank you, Bert.
All right, bye-bye.
Carol, moving on to your our registry of charitable trusts.
So I was asked, given something that we'll be talking about at the board meeting with the Registry of Charitable Trusts, I was asked to state whether DRF is in good standing, and I can affirm that we are. Here's the postcard to renew for DRF, very official, very, very nice. And we're not due to renew until November 15th. I will do it, of course, substantially before then. And so we're all good.
Great. Okay, so with that, unless there's any other topics that wanted to be shared.
I'm gonna just interrupt you for just 1 second. So since we've got Dirk on here as the chair of the DRF, we want to just see if there's any comments or input that he has, or anything for the year, for this upcoming Rotary year that he wants to be talking to us about.
I don't have anything specific, just hope we're gonna have a very quiet year, that's all.
Amen.
Amen.
I do have a couple of other things that's
Yeah.
probably a little bit, it's not part of the disaster relief. I just a couple of questions and a comment. It's been, the Middletown Club is kind of, which is the Clear Lake Club originally sponsored is disbanding. So I don't know how that works and if there's anything that the Clear Lake Club needs to do because it was originally sponsored by us. And secondly, I don't know who appointed the assistant governor, but typically what has been in the past that I think right now we have from somebody from Windsor, that is the AG for Lake County. It's been in the past, it's been kind of a rotating assignment between, at that time, the 4 clubs. So I hope that that can be arranged again, that in the future, the assistant governor for Lake County is one from one of the three clubs.
Right, and we had, Dirk, I can just say that we tried reaching out to several people in the, in those, of those clubs, and we could find no one. And Michael Ragsdale was somebody who stepped up, his family has property up in Lake County, and Michael said that he would step in and take care of that. So, yeah, I think that
We have some complications with that because our LARCA organization, that's the Lake County, it's been that the assistant governor of Lake that represents Lake County is part of LARCA. So we have some housekeeping to do for our own disaster stuff. So that's all.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you all.
Okay, okay, with that, then I'll move to adjourn the meeting, but I need a motion.
I motion that we adjourn.
A second.
Jennifer will second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Dirk.
Bye, Dirk.
Okay, and that passes. Thank you. So now we'll move on to the, now we'll go into the financial reports. Open the financial portion of the meeting. Let's see here.
So normally with the finance committee meeting, Dustin, as the past district governor, would just for as a matter of record, he would be the chair of this committee. But again, he's at a job interview out where there is no cell service, so he's not able to be here. So Tom will probably need to go ahead and sit in, but normally it'll be Dustin.
Great, and I'm just looking at, here we go. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to be Dustin for the day. So I'm going to call this one to order. Once again, we have Barbara McChesney and we have Valerie Hulsey as guests. And so welcome and thank you for being here. And oops, I'm pulled into my, I'm sorry, give me one moment. I grabbed my, oh, I keep opening the DRF. And I'm just trying to get my. I apologize. I'm looking at the wrong agenda on this. So give me one moment.
She also has it on the screen too.
Perfect. Okay, so yeah, Carol, if you can go ahead and start with your reports.
I can. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. So this is the balance sheet as of June 30th. We had at the end of June $31,000 left in the bank account. I will tell you that as of this morning, it's $9,700 as of this morning, because we've paid a lot of things since June 30th. We have merchant account. We have $73,000 or had $73,000 left in the grants account. These are other accounts. So these are all the bank accounts up at the top. I will tell you that none of the Youth Exchange accounts, Youth Exchange Checking, Rotex, and Western Safari, none of that has been updated for the fourth quarter because I was not given the data. The books are not closed. They're not complete. And so I didn't make a partial entry or anything. I tried, but I was not successful in getting the information that I needed. And that's another story. But so this is these numbers are numbers from the prior quarter from March 31st. Moving down, this is our reserves numbers are correct. We have 171,000 in reserve savings. Our accounts receivable at the end of June were $4,200. Most of that is just some leftover money from RILA. And those clubs have been contacted and are in the process of paying. We invoiced all the clubs at RILA for RILA campers through the district this year for the first time, very successfully, in my opinion. We have some event deposits. I'll be giving you the schedules for those later on. And then here's the trailer. So those are the assets. I'm going to move ahead to the
Can
liability.
I ask you a quick question?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the balance in the checking account right now, so have we received the allotment, the district governor allotment from RI yet?
We have not.
Okay, so that's
And
coming in.
And we won't receive I will bill the clubs for dues
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I get the count from RI. Last year, I got the count from RI at the end of July. So I billed I billed as soon as I got it.
Okay,
So that I don't have any problem with it. I mean, we don't have any big bills that are coming in. It's a little tight. And I know that we're going to have a lot of money pretty quickly, but just letting you know.
well, and that's, it's not like we're out of money. We've got the reserve savings, but that's in a separate bucket just for a matter of people understanding.
Okay, I'm going to move on. Okay.
Thank you.
Our liabilities, so we've broken out, we had $39,000 in payables. Now, all this means is that in the first part of July, I was still writing reimbursement checks and bills that had to go with a 6/30 or before date on them. So that's why those show up as payables. And we had $12,000 in grants payables left at the end of the year. We had $586 left on the to pay on the credit card. This is the rotoplast missions that were allocated a couple of years back and the offsets. So those are the only liabilities that we have. I'm gonna just move on. If you want me to come back, let me know. This is the breakdown for profit and loss, broken down by the different classes. So each of the DG line, district grants, the programs, which include RILA and the youth exchange programs, and then the district reserves are a separate class. One of the things I'm going to ask Jennifer, Tom, and Jim to do over the next couple of weeks is go over with me to make sure, as we look at, we're going to look at the budgets in a minute. We want to go and make sure I have things in the right place, make sure that we have things that are budgeted correctly, showing correctly, because sometimes things get in the wrong place. So we can see here, this is what we billed last year in conference dues, that 88,000 and the 19,000. We brought in 47,000 for the district conference.
Can I stop you real quick? Where does the $1,000 from that youth exchange gave us? Is it in that number somewhere up there?
It's in registrations.
Got it.
It's
Thank
at
you.
$40,000.
Okay.
Yeah. So the foundation dinners are shown separately. Here's the reception in Melbourne, brought in 1,900. Over here is the program revenue. So this RILA number is correct. The RILA revenue was 42. This 59 is not correct. So that will be adjusted as soon as I get the books. This is the reserve allocation and moving around the reserves. And that hasn't changed since the beginning of the year. That was for last year. The Ken Moulton program brought in $3,000. I know this district training assembly says north. It's the way that the chart of accounts is set up on the books. I'm not crazy about it right now, and I don't know what the plan is for this year, whether we're going to have one district training assembly or whether we're going to have a north and south. Don't know. We're going to have one, Jim says. So maybe I'll change that so that it doesn't say north, but that's what it says right now. We just had one this year. Here's the RI subsidy that we got this year, was that $14,809. We got that early on. You made a little bit of interest on the bank accounts for the reserves. And then we got 102 for 243 for the district grants. So our total income coming in was 404,000. And then the expenses are separated out by expenses that the DG line spends. Okay, this is not on projects. This is just that the DG line spends. So we've got stuff for the international convention. We've got badges and banners. We've got going to Zone Institute. And again, you guys can help me make sure that I've got those things in the right categories. I'm just going to remind you that Jennifer's column, the DG's column, always includes both the DG's expenses and the district expenses. So things like software and miscellaneous charges and stuff like that also goes in that first column in that DG.
So I do have a question on that, actually. So it says right there, international convention under my name, 10,507. That's including the social too, because I didn't even spend the 7,500 on the convention. So that 10,507, I didn't spend.
So see that there's something probably that's off there, and I don't know what.
Okay.
I don't know what that is, because you definitely didn't.
No, I was under the budget.
Oh, yeah, you were way under, because there was 75. Oh, I know what it is. It's that Dustin was allocated to, so I just charged Dustin to the district.
Okay.
And
Yeah, so it just needs to be as a matter of record that I did not spend $10,507 myself on the international convention. I think I was less than 5. So
you were the lowest of anybody.
yeah, so I just want to make sure that that gets clarified as maybe a note in there of some sort for going forward, that
Okay.
it was.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
Anyway, those are those. Here's district event expenses. So this is what it cost us to put on Foundation Dinner North and South and district conference expenses. I will just say that it is, I forgot what I was going to say. Never
You
mind.
were probably going to talk about the refunds, that we need to talk about that at some point.
We do need to talk about that.
Very frustrating.
So what Jennifer is referring to is that she thought that she had a lot more in district conference revenue than she did. We ended up doing quite a few refunds. Valerie will attest to that after the fact. And that was because people either were no-shows, canceled at the last minute, had a reason, and we didn't have a firmly committed to refund policy. We gave 100% refunds and didn't charge people for fees. And Valerie and I and Jennifer have since chatted about this and feel that going forward, we should have a sliding scale like most events do. Like if you cancel 2 weeks ahead, you only get 50% of your deposit back.
And I'll clarify that even a little bit more. So the registration number, I was following along with the registration number that we had in DACDB, and I was keeping the budget completely right on target. Even after the event was over, I looked at the gross registration number, and then after all of the refunds that I didn't know were being not processed, it blew the budget out of the water. So there has to be a process going forward from a finance standpoint with events that, a lot of times people don't pay until the event and then they're in the registration numbers, but it's really difficult to put on an event when you're doing a bunch of refunds after, 2 weeks after the event is over. So we really need to come up with a better policy for that. It's almost impossible to do an event and have it stay on budget when you're doing that.
Valerie and I also talked about, and maybe this isn't the place for it, but like to talk about payment by check. So whether you sign up on DACDB and you say, yes, I'm going to come, but I'm not paying right now. Oh, my club will bring a check. It's problematic for Valerie. It's problematic for club treasurers. So I think we want to look at that, and we have time before our first big event, the foundation stuff, to figure out what we really want to do going forward. So it works for all the team members in the district. And we don't get a situation like this, because we have to commit to vendors, as you know. And when you commit, you have to pay, and then that means, you know, we all get it. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the numbers, all right? So we spent $86,000 on events. We have the training expenses are broken out separately, and those are the Rotorship Leadership Academy, Ken Moulton Fund. We have a bunch of pet stuff here. Zone Institute, District Training Assembly is down here. These are the district matching grants and the environmental grants. And that was $66,000. That came out of that grants fund, out of that 123 that we got from the Rotary Foundation. We spent on general admin, we spent $29,000. I am happy to have everybody, all of the DG line has access to QuickBooks Online and can go look at all this detail. I am also happy if any of you have questions, I will spend as much time one-on-one with you to go over things to help you understand or reclassify things if you want. Here's RILA. These are the RILA expenses. As I said, the youth exchange stuff is not correct. We had club branding support. So that was the branding PI and branding grants that we offered for $250 each. And we paid out $6,200 in those. So the bottom line for the year so far, and I will tell you that there is more, a number of you have said, oh, I've got some more expenses to come in. So this is a draft version that I'm going to be asking for approval today. We have a slight loss of $9,400. It's going to be a little bit higher, but I don't know what that's going to be yet. Any questions so far before I move on? Okay, this is the budget to actual on the classes, and you're probably better off looking at it on your own screen. So I'm going to try to make it a little bit smaller. It starts getting too small and you can't really see it. So for each person, like Jennifer in the district, there's actual budget and over under, and then Tom and Jim, the district grants, the programs, and the reserves. So these numbers I also think are pretty close right now, but a lot up for grabs because we have some amounts still to come in. And we're going to hopefully talk about this and make it more timely for next year so that we can have these things be more accurate. Does anyone want to go into more detail on this right now?
I like your idea of being able to go in and take a look at it independently.
Yeah, like I said, I am happy to do that with anyone who wants to do it. These are our receivables at 6:30 and right now. So we have 4 clubs that owe money. And I will say that a couple of these were just billed in the last few days, you know, so they were billed in the last few days for 6:30. So it's not that they're late. I have reached out to the 2 that were billed back in May, and they have both are working on it. So I don't have any problem with it. Like I said, we invoiced it through the district and it worked very well. Clubs were able to pay online. Most of them sent checks. So it worked great. Here's the breakdown of event deposits. So we have that 17,000 for DoubleTree, and I know we're going to have an update on that a little bit later. Jim has put down a deposit for 2025, and Tom has we've put down a deposit for the district conference for next year. And those are both in asset accounts called event deposits. Moving on, these are our payables at June 30th. So we had a total of $52,000 worth of payables. These were mainly little expense reimbursements. There's a big chunk right here to Westminster Woods, that's Ryla. And I've broken that out on the next page. Here's the breakdown. So these were the grants payable that were due at 6:30, and those are the amounts. You'll see that these Petaluma clubs all broke their grants into two sections that total $2,200. So that's the breakdown between the grants payable and accounts payable, so that the board can see the difference. Terry tells me that all of the grants have been paid now. There may be one slightly pending, but
No, it's not.
It's
I
not.
talked to Terry last night, and the answer to them was going to be no.
Okay.
They got to follow the rules.
okay, so all the grants have been paid and we're done.
Mhm.
This is the public imaging and branding support schedule for all of those clubs that signed up, and all of the things that I think that they did some pretty creative things with that $250. So there was a wide variety of people buying shirts and signs and new banners and all sorts of interesting things. So that's available. All of you have that. Any questions on that?
That's great. It's good to see that they did it. That
Yeah.
many.
Yep. So that is that part. If you want, we can, so what works best, to go to look at the grants worksheet and come back to the budget? Tom, you got a preference?
No, I'll run with your lead on it. So yeah, you want to go into the grants worksheet, that's fine.
So these are the grants that that were issued for our district matching grants. And that totaled $51,000 that was paid to clubs that completed projects through the year ending May 31st. We did that wonderful project that Jennifer came up with, Operation Tango Mike, at the district conference, and that was $4,100. And then $10,600 worth of environmental grants. And there were such a wide variety of grants that were done. I personally would love to see more publicity and having this kind of stuff circulated at all the clubs, because boy, it sure, I mean, I know we don't hear about it in our club, and the only reason I know about it is because of this. And I think that some of this stuff is so fun that other clubs ought to know about it, so they know that they could do it. Anyway, just my thought. So that's the grants. And then we got the environmental grants. And again, we had some nice creative things done here. $10,683, and quite a lot of participation. Could have had more participation, as we do on all of them, but pretty nice, I think. Questions? Anything? I'm just going to keep going unless you stop. This is the schedule for the branding support. So that was at $6,200, and all the things they did for that. Pretty fun.
I think it's just as a comment, I think it was very good to see some of the money getting back out into the hands of the clubs to be able to do some creative things, both from the PI, and then of course Barbara did an amazing job with the environmental grants. So it's really neat. I would encourage everybody to take a look at this list. And Tom, we probably should get our heads together on some way of getting this out, getting these out to the clubs so that they can actually see I appreciate the spreadsheet. Thank you, Carol, for doing that, putting it all on one page.
I will tell you that when
And-
I was putting in all of these for payment, one of the things I really loved was seeing the pictures of the new mug or the new vest or the sign that said some pretty fun things.
Mhm.
And I like that.
And
Can I
c-
ask
think-
a quick question?
Yeah.
About that? I don't know anything about how this money is made available. I was noticing things like the Rotarians at Work shirts and the sandwich boards and things like that. Are those, is there more money available for clubs to do that, or was that a one-time deal that you spend the money when you get a?
It was a one-time deal for last year that the board, I had requested and the board approved to shift a little bit of money from previous year's reserves into a PI and branding campaign. The club presidents were, I mean, hounded about it ad nauseum, about making sure that they access that. But it was just a 1 year. It doesn't mean that it couldn't happen again, but it was a 1 year access to those funds.
And Barbara, as we get into the board meeting, and we can talk there a little bit about how we might be able to do a recognition for, as you know, Ann, we're continuing with the environmental program, and trying to figure out what we can do and how we can find dollars, if needed dollars, to allocate back over to that. So we'll talk about that in the board meeting.
The next thing we have up is a report on RILA. So one of the things that the board had requested last time was, the board said, we want to see budget to actual for all of the programs. So that would be Youth Exchange, RILA, and Western Safari. I'm happy to present the one for RILA, and this was the budget was originally based on 55 campers. She had 59 sign up and 56 actually showed. So you can see the budget, and she actually came out of it. This is Cassie Pitkin, who was our leader for this year. Did a great job, got her stuff in on time. I told her I was very impressed that she had some goals and she wrote them down and she hit them.
And just to also bring to it, I mean, she had requested or asked about, the income that she has available here and what she might be able to do with it after the fact. And from my understanding, I mean, these are their dollars, but she's got containers that they're using that are all broken up, and she needs to pick up new containers to store materials for RILA. And she also wanted to go out and invest in staff shirts, because there's I guess they don't have, everyone doesn't have the same staff shirt, and she's looking to try and have some identity where everybody is easily recognized as one of the RILA team. And I don't suppose that, I mean, these are dollars that they're raising up on their side, and I would imagine that she has the ability to go ahead and use those dollars to fulfill that. I would highly support that. And do we need to do anything since it's their dollars?
I don't think we do. Carol, I don't know if you want to comment on that, but because it's within her program budget, as long as she doesn't go over, I think that she can use those funds to do some infrastructure work. Would you agree, Carol?
I totally agree, Jennifer. I don't know whether you guys realized that a little less than a year ago, fall of last year, everybody was fairly upset because RILA the prior year was short and there was a problem with storage, and are we paying for storage, and who's in charge of this? And there was a lot of negative feeling about how the money had come together and who was short and did the district have to pay. And she set about to clean that up, and she did. And yeah, that money is money that she had left over because she managed she was on the phone to me. Now, if I do this, I can save this much money here. And if I get this extra camper, then I can do so and so. So this is a young woman who I think is very diligent and is thinking in the right place and wants to invest in the future in this program that she's so committed to. So this is her write-up. I hope you take the time to read it. And there are links to the results of the survey, and some of the comments the kids made were pretty touching. So
yeah, she did a great job.
a lot of these kids had to take their finals early because Ryla conflicted with the finals week at their high school. And there was one comment from a young lady who said, you know, I really questioned whether this was going to be the right choice, and oh my gosh, was it? So I invite you to look at that.
Yeah, those are the kinds of things that they really ought to add to their website, so that as a student goes in to explore what goes on, to have those kinds of testimonials that come in and try to help convince others that this is an opportunity. You love camp. I like it, Clark.
I
Right.
will tell you that it was the first time that I had been to it. Tom and I were asked to come and open the session. Jim, you'll hopefully go next year with Tom. It's amazing. It's a very, very cool program, and Cassie very much needs to be commended for the dedication, and her entire team. She has this one gentleman that takes his vacation every year from work. He's not even a Rotarian, but he uses his vacation to come and be a counselor. He was a previous camper a long time ago, but it's really a wonderful program that is making a difference in the lives of these kids. And the Rotarians are Calistoga, and I know that a lot of clubs in Sonoma County are helping with the food. And I would encourage everyone to go down there for a day and volunteer next year. It's a wonderful program.
Can I also say that there's a real opportunity for cross-pollination between clubs here, because we had a number of clubs who didn't have a Ryla camper who paid for other clubs. So for example, Windsor had 4 campers, but we had only budgeted for 2. So we couldn't pay for our other 2. Middletown paid for our other 2. So Windsor sent 4, and we had a number of Fort Bragg paid for, I think, 5 campers, and a number of clubs, Lakeport paid for a bunch of campers. So there's a lot of club helping club going on here, and that might be something for the AGs to note too.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, that was that, and then that's it on that. So do we want to go ahead and talk about approving the financials and then come back to the budget, or you want to talk to, how do you want to do that?
We could do that. We have that convention bid invoice, so we'd come back and talk about that after the fact then.
Yeah, or you can talk about it right now if you want.
You know, let's talk about it right now. I know last year, I mean, we talked about our level of support for the bringing the international convention to San Francisco, and as one of the surrounding districts, they had presented us with the asking us to be involved. And I know that we talked about budgeting scenarios where we would find a way to basically support our members, especially from a higher up north in the district, to be able to make that travel down to a convention should the convention happen. And so I believe that this, well, Jim, you want to tag in on here, because I believe that we talked about an assessment of some sort back last year. And this is the bill that they're coming back based on 1942 on the members. Am I correct?
Well, I think it's a little different. My understanding is what you just articulated is going to be a different ask, a different amount of money, should we get the convention to actually come to San Francisco. This money is for the site visit, which is going to happen in the next few months. And it's to defer the expenses of the folks that will be doing a 72-hour site visit to San Francisco. And that's what I believe this money's for.
Right.
If we get the convention, then they're going to be asking, and they threw out all kinds of numbers, $10,000 or more from each district to help with other expenses to put this on. So I was a little confused and a little surprised that this came out, because the discussion's all over the place. They're already forming, they're changing the committee from a bid committee to a host committee, you know, in anticipation that we're going to get this in San Francisco. But so anyway, the short of it is this money is for, and I'm pretty confident I'm correct. I've been wrong before, but it's for the site visit, which is going to happen in the early fall. Any questions on that or comments?
Well, I mean, we can save comment on the other if they actually get the bid. And I think that we had that discussion about how much do we as a district, knowing that, you know, how much are we going to put back into that, into San Francisco? Because the chances of us attracting support back up into our district is going to be minimal. So it really just becomes a situation of how much do we want to support San Francisco's effort to have the convention there. And I know that we had a long conversation on that, and that I guess we'll wait and see if in fact they do get the bid. I don't think that we want to make a commitment on dollars at this point, but understand what it is, whether or not they even get the bid. If they get the bid, then we'd have to look at those dollars. How can those dollars best be used for our district to be a supporter of this? I imagine that we're going to get sergeant at arms scenarios and other ways that we would be able to be in support, and being able to support our members from our district to be able to fulfill that. I think that's something that we can take into consideration if they get the bid, and that would be the best. So in a case like this, it's just a situation of that's $1,000. I don't believe that we had anything budgeted for it. So if we pull it, we just take money out of reserve.
Yeah, and Tom, a couple of comments here. There was a survey sent out to all the districts many months ago, and the response was pretty positive on attendance and volunteering from not only our district, but from all the districts. I don't think there was a question about allocating money, though. This was more getting an individual Rotarian feedback. And that was in turn, those numbers were sent to RI in plugging San Francisco. So that was helped build the case, but it was pretty positive. Again, I was a little surprised we got this bill because the committee would talk about things, but I didn't think this was going to.
I think it was a surprise to Wolf as well.
Yeah, it was. And between the two of us, I think we've attended just about all the meetings. But, I think there was just an assumption that each of the surrounding districts are going to pay this $1,095. I don't think it's unfair, by the way, because I think there's quite a bit of expense that's going to be incurred when the site committee comes in. They're also going to try to do a display in Union Square, a Rotary display, and what is it, 5150 down south? They're putting quite a bit of time and effort into this. They had a meeting, and I don't want to get too off track here, but they had the mayor there about a month ago, and they've gotten a lot of support from the city of San Francisco. So they certainly put in quite a bit of time. I think if we can do it, the $1,095 from our district is a pretty good gesture to help support this effort, which from my viewpoint, like I said, a lot of those Rotarians in the San Francisco club have put in tremendous amount of hours to make this happen.
Well, we can talk about, the other allocations of dollars. If in fact they have a convention in San Francisco, the district at least wouldn't have to put out, $4,500 per person to try and send them off to some foreign location. So but why don't we hold on to that? So
Yeah. I agree with
situation,
that. That's a completely different subject, Tom. And
Yeah.
I agree.
so I just look at this and say, basically, and who's in favor of being able to put the 1095? Do we need a motion on this particular piece?
Could I say one thing before we go forward?
Uh-huh.
I don't think you need a motion to pay it. I think we can just, somebody's going to approve it. Jim O'Grady's name on it is name on it. So Tom, I would probably have, if Jim says he thinks it's okay and you think it's okay, I would go ahead and pay it. The thing that I want to be cognizant of is, notice it says invoice number 1. My indication is that they would probably think that there's gonna be a lot of planning going forward, a lot of site visits, a lot of. So we need to plan on building this into our budgets going forward in the years to come, so that this is not a surprise. And this needs to be planned in there, because I'm guessing that in the year that we actually do this convention, which will be 28, 29, there's going to be a chunk of change that we're going to get charged for something.
Well, I think then that we do need to figure out from the committee or whoever is setting this up on and it would be the committee, right, Jim? That somebody over there is saying, okay, well, this is how much money we're going to allocate back over. And I think that's a very good point, Carol. It's like, how much are we committing to just for them to just try and put this thing together? In other words, these are dollars that are just going to be for the seed money to try and get out and bring people in for the visitation. Was there anticipated, had they talked about a invoice number 2, invoice number 3? Because that's a really good point. I mean, I wouldn't want to see us, it's not an open valve here that, you know, if we approve this and we go ahead and pay this much in, I do think that moving forward, we'd want to know exactly what are they anticipating. And they're basing it on the 1,942 members. So I don't believe that every district is being asked only for 1,095. It's going to be based on our membership numbers.
Yeah, so early on, in like 6 months ago, that was something they talked about, but not recently. It's been more about the site visit. But I'd be happy to take it upon myself to get that answered. I'll call the chair and talk to him about that. They meet quite often, almost every Monday, but
Yeah, okay.
and I'll get back to our board members about what they say, see how definite the numbers are.
So I would think that we could go ahead and in good faith give them this first invoice number 1 as their dollars needed or whatever, and show in good faith that the district is willing to allow for them to go ahead and see if they can pull it together. But I do want to know how much money they're going to ask for in seed money, and then let alone if they get it, then they're going to be coming back to us for a much bigger number with regard to the district. And I think that we have a lot of conversation that should happen at that point for the for what the benefits are going to be for us. That they have it in San Francisco. So,
and I'd also like to know, just for how far afield are they going? Are they asking Fresno districts to chip in because it's going to be helpful to California? Or is it just 5150 and us because we're surrounding San Francisco? Or, you know, it would be fun to know a little bit more information. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, maybe we could do a report then at the next board meeting, and I can get all that for
okay.
More definitive.
All right. So if we don't need a motion on it, Nat, I mean, yeah, just send it over and we'll give them 1,095.
Okay. So do we want to talk about, just as long as we're on this, why don't we just hit this budget? So this is Tom's budget.
I can't remember, do we need an approval for the financials at this point, since the budget is a separate item?
Yeah,
Yeah, let's do that. Can I get a motion then to approve the financials as presented?
Jennifer will approve the financials as presented. Motion to approve as whatever.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those or any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Did I hear an aye from you, Darren?
Yes, aye.
All right, thank you. All right. And now on to the budget.
let me just say, before we leave the financials, that there will be a discussion about with the reserves and what happens when we get final numbers. One of the things we do when we talk about the reserves is we have to do that within 3 months of the tax return being completed. We're not there yet, so that will probably be for the next board meeting.
Yeah, curious question. I mean, our corporation is, the tax return is the same, that it would not be due until October?
Right.
Okay.
I've
Right.
already signed the engagement letter with Lincolnheimer. They are aware that we're going to be using them again. We're on track. We just, sometime within the next, little bit, I'll be getting them numbers, but I have to get everything settled first. But that's one reason why I'd like to get together with the 3 of you guys and maybe Christine too, if she wants to participate in the process, just to go over everything and make sure you agree. Yeah, this goes in the right place. I find I put stuff in the wrong place all the time, so I'm always moving stuff around. So need a
That's
reality.
encouraging.
Yeah. It is. All right, so this is Tom's budget, and this was presented to the presidents at the district conference and was approved. There has been a change to it. And now I'm not even remembering what it was. Found a mistake, that something was in there twice. I don't know, Tom, do you want to speak to this? We know that the RI subsidy for this year is going to be $13,968. We figured out.
I think one of the things that looking at Jim's column is that we've been grossly under on the dollars that are going back out for district training assembly. I mean, I think that in the last 2 years, we've seen the numbers were higher than what they are, than what we're supporting it with here. So either we have to find some way to be able to increase those dollars for that event. I mean, yeah, or we have to go get into a large arena to try and figure out, where else can we do it? But the cost for the facility and the cost for the food, everything seemed to go up slightly from Jennifer's year and then on into my year, and I anticipate that's going to be the same situation. So I'm not really quite sure what we do about that. But I think that we should be anticipating a greater cost.
I agree, and I think that that since I've been involved in this, we've kind of been doing budgets by the seat of the pants, and I honestly don't know how they were done in the past, but I think that we need to be much more realistic about. And I know Jennifer tried to keep a really tight control about what was going on with her district conference expenses. But it's not enough to say, oh, maybe 4,000 for food. We have to have a number from a vendor and a commitment and there has to be some tangible stuff. And Tom, Sandy and I are talking about that for your conference next year.
So that's on, and that'll be on the conference and that, but this is specifically to district training. And I do like the idea that we have that central location that people can come down to, and that Ukiah tends to have hotel fees that are a little less than other areas down here. So that all makes great sense. But we're currently charging what, $50 a person for the training. And if we were to increase that to 65, throw $15 back onto it, then all of a sudden we have almost $20,000 into the budget, which is where it came in this year. Believe we were at 18,500 or something like that on the cost for this year. And that would give us the ability to do it. Either we, try and bring the cost of the district training up to 65. And based on the food and everything else that we're doing, I think the quality of the event probably could warrant that. And I would hope that, and again, I'm looking at numbers of about 300 people. We had, I believe, 290 for the last one. And that seems to be increasing based on you know, the amount of interaction that people are having now as they come away from the COVID. So I don't know if that's going to be too big of a number, but it seems to be a number that would work financially to give us the dollars that we'd need in order to make this thing happen.
Well, one of the things that I would suggest is that, oh, I'm sorry, Valerie.
Oh, excuse me, I don't know if I'm allowed to speak or whatever, but
Absolutely.
excuse me, most of the clubs pay for district training assembly. We get a lot of members that say, oh, I'm paying, but my club's paying me back, or we get the club checks. And I don't think the clubs are going to complain about $15 more for the members that attend. Their expenses, they know their expenses are going up too. So clubs have been paying, well, I've been doing this for what, 13 or 14 years, and the majority of clubs seem to pay for their members.
And that $50 hasn't changed in a really long time.
I don't think it's ever changed.
It's been, I think it was 25 years ago when I was going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually have my first meeting at the end of the month for getting this set up, the district training, and I've already set up the venue. I'm certainly not opposed. I haven't even thought about this, but $65 would seem fine to me. And I'm comfortable with that. And I think Valerie's right. Most of the time the clubs pay for it. So if 10 members are going, you're going from $500 to $650 from the club. I think that's pretty minimal. To me, a minimal ask. And as we've looked at in some other budget areas, nothing's changed for more than a dozen years. So I think it's time to do that. It's just going to get worse.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I would recommend, and I don't know whether this is possible or not, I would love to sit down with Jim, have you go over with me or with Tom or whoever, but you can have me as a resource anyway, and go over and look what Tom spent this year, because his budget was 10 and he spent 18. So he almost doubled it. And so it's easy to say, oh, 65 is fine, but if 65 doesn't cover your expenses, then it's not fine. We have to look at what we really think we're going to spend in real world dollars and then figure out how to cover it. And
I do think, Carol, I mean, just looking at it at basic numbers, and what do we have, 290 people that attended the district training assembly?
I couldn't.
I think that's pretty close number. And again, we would cover that if in fact we were at 65. I think that it's a pretty easy thing to do, to look at it. And I understand what you're saying, but we could, I think we can meet that number. I think that's a number that I would suggest.
Yeah, I mean, that's 18,850 if we had the exact same numbers at 65. But yeah, I'm more than willing, Carol, to meet with you or the three of us, go over some of these things. Like I said, I am trying to get this started on the planning. Part of it's a psychological jump too. If you go to 70, that sounds a lot worse than 65. Yeah. So that's 65 feels comfortable. It's like any other event we all plan in Rotary. But anyway,
so, yeah, here's another one too. I mean, in the same column, but just above that on the pets training expenses. Now, last year, they wound up giving us back what was it, $2,000, Carol, because they were trying to charge for the DGE or whatever for the suite and everything on it. So I question whether or not we're being realistic at 12.5 based on, am I correct on that, Carol?
Yes, you are. And you are smart to question it. And with the problems that we had with the billing for pets, that may not be high enough, because they gave us a waiver for that suite this year. But they were abundantly clear with me that may not happen going forward. So that number may be $2,500 higher going forward.
Well, maybe we should have a meeting with the three of us to go over some of these things now that I'm in the middle of planning them or being involved in them.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, we can break out those numbers from last year to be able to see what it is. Because we had the first set of numbers that they gave us was $2,000 higher than what we had allocated for pets based on their adjustment. And then they did adjust it back down. So, but still, yeah, being prepared on it would be better.
Yeah. And we also had, and I'm not clear on, and maybe somebody can help me understand. I'm not clear what program committees, what the $8,000 under the term program committees and district youth exchange is, as opposed to just youth exchange. So is this, so anytime that I see that district youth exchange, that's money that in this case, we gave $8,000 to the youth exchange account this year. We're going to do this in this coming year too. We also had some other monies allocated in Jennifer's year that we did not pay for Rotex and some of the other events that we didn't, or other kind of program things, and we didn't spend any of that. So we might want to look at whether that's something that we want to add or not, or anyway, I don't know. And Tom, you've got $10,000 in there for club branding support. So that's more of what Jennifer did this year with that. So we may want to look at tweaking this and getting it reapproved. I don't know.
And if there's adjustments on it, we can look at this between now and October and talk
Yes.
about it at the October meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the budget? I'm going back to the agenda. So we talked about grants. We talked about the PI branding. We talked about RILA. Again, I said to Jennifer and Tom and Jim, if you would if you can schedule some time with me to go over these things to make sure they're in the right places and you're understanding what you want to know, I'm happy to do that. The Western Safari and Youth Exchange stuff is pending, and I will prepare some reports when I get that information. I have to send a report to RI by the end of this month, so it better be soon. And
Have you reached out to Hyder to ask for his assistance and get Mark going? Okay.
So just a side note here, Clark and I have had a couple little conversations on the sidebar. She is on that youth exchange committee, and she will be assisting in getting the information that you need, Carol.
Thank you, Clark.
okay, Clark,
Thank you, Jennifer.
that's great. Okay, should we move on? We finished with the
Yeah, let's do your international.
So this charitable trust
Right.
situation, I don't know whether people have had a chance to, that we're not talking about that until the board meeting.
Right.
Sorry.
Okay.
The change in the payment processor. So this is pretty exciting. I have been talking for the last several board meetings over the fact that I thought we were being overcharged on our merchant fees. And we finally, so I informed the board that we were going to do this for the last couple meetings. We pulled the plug earlier this week, and we now have a new payment processor, which is the up-to-date payment processor used by Exchange Bank. So you can see just basically we got rid of a lot of the static monthly fees and the annual fee. We pay a slightly higher number, 3.5% as opposed to 2.6 for transactions, but man, it's flexible. We can now take Discover Card and American Express, which have been giving Valerie headaches for years because people get declined when they try to use an American Express card to register for a DAC-DB event. So nothing else will change. Things will look exactly the same to Valerie coming through DAC-DB, but hopefully we're going to be saving some money and life will be better. Any questions on that? Well, see, I'm pretty excited, but you guys are like, no, it's no big deal. Okay. So that's pretty much it. And then we already spoke about the convention bid situation.
Right.
Okay, we've got a discussion item. So this is that the Financial Oversight Committee is going to be meeting. Kathy Flamson will be organizing that. I've already spoken with her. She's getting together a group to do this, and this is not necessarily to review the books, but it's to review the procedures for how we do accounting, how we handle money within the district. So that's to come, and that will meet sometime in the next 3 months, and there will be a report at the second board meeting. Nothing more to say about that.
Nope.
Okay, here's the reservation, Jennifer and Jim.
I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Jim. So just as a clarification for those that you might not know, this $17,000 is been sitting at the DoubleTree in Roanoke Park since the district conference during Doug Johnson's district governor year. It was the deposit for his conference that had to be canceled due to COVID. And so the DoubleTree was sitting on that money, basically wanting to have an event done by the end of basically this coming year. So anyhow, we, through many conversations with Tom and Jim and myself and a Rotarian from another district who is an attorney that actually helped us draft a letter to the DoubleTree, we were able to renegotiate the utilization of that contract that the $17,000 went towards covering. And so we were able to get the DoubleTree to reduce the cap of the contract down a little bit. But then we still had to try to figure out how to do an event by the end of 2025. So we were also able to get them to move that. And then Jim O'Grady had a fantastic idea and as to what we can do. And so I want to turn this over to him to have him talk a little bit more, but I think we've come to a good solution for that 17,000. Jim.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. So yeah, so what we decided to do and have kicked off is to have a peace conference. And there have been several peace conferences over the last 8 years or so around the United States, developed and put on by Rotarians. All of them have been multi-district. So I've been meeting with my district governor elect colleagues. We've been meeting every other week for about 8 weeks now, 10 weeks, to see if this would be something viable. And as of now, it looks like all 8 of our surrounding districts would like to be involved. So they're very excited. There's a lot of moving parts. It's been a little overwhelming. But I think it's going to be a great event. It's scheduled for January 24th to the 26th, 2025, again at the DoubleTree. That's where we're at. One of the things, and I wanted to make this clear with our board, that in approaching the other districts to be part of this was, and their initial question, well, what's the financial responsibility of each of our districts if we're going to join in? My comment was, well, the initial, this 17,000 and the 32 or 33,000 that's on the initial contract is really the responsibility of our district 5130. I couldn't very well invite them to join in and assume the risk that we've been that we have. And I don't know if there's any comments on that, but I felt that was fair. We're certainly the lead district in putting this peace conference together. And my guess is, and this is a little bit of a stress point for me, is that it's going to be much, much larger than the current contract with the DoubleTree calls for. I mean, it's pretty minimal in a sense. They're looking for 100 attendees, and I think, and Jennifer might know this off the top of her head, I think it's 22 hotel 2-night stays. So it's pretty small. I mean, we could do it as a district, you know, and keep it, you know, half the size of a district conference. But the excitement is really incredible from not only our outlying districts who want to participate, but also some of the folks I've been speaking with in our district. And again, this has been done. It was in Birmingham, Alabama, about 3 months ago. And if you like, I can send all of you the links. It was also in Ontario, California in 2016 and 2020. The gentleman who chaired that has been sitting in on our committee meetings and giving us quite a bit of guidance in putting this together. So right now it's a big deal. Salvador has been sitting in on it and has been cheerleading us through and adding a lot. I'm still looking for a chair, but I think that'll come to fruition pretty soon. There's several folks I'm speaking with to do that, including some folks outside of our district who really want to participate in doing that. So that's kind of where we're at. I've also talked to John Blount about doing the, his team running the AV. Quite a bit of moving parts there. He's not real thrilled, or he's cautious in working with the DoubleTree. I think they have quite a few restrictions. So again, I think on the Rotary side, things are looking really good. I think it's very positive. I'm a little concerned in getting the cooperation from the DoubleTree, and I think only because I'm jaded in what Jennifer went through with them for a couple of years in just getting this far. But hopefully that can all be ironed out in the next few weeks on how this can expand into, I think, something that certainly our district and all of Rotary can be real proud of when it happens in January 2025.
So Jim, remember we talked about the for the conference and talking about LBC that said, oh, we're going to use a union, but all we had to do with them was hire that one person. So we have a supervisor that's part of theirs, but then we have the ability to run the show ourselves. So I think that's a good thing to bring up with them and talk to that. And then I had dinner with Hal, and his last name's going to escape me. He was one of your presidents, Jennifer, from Sebastopol. And he was extremely excited about it. And I just kind of throw that, that he might be somebody that you might want to be talking to with regard to, some sort of a chair situation.
Yeah, I did
Yes,
speak to Hal,
Paul
and he's been real good about it. And I follow up on everyone's suggestions. I've talked to Ian as well. And there's a couple other folks I have communicated with. One of the difficulties with Hal is our meeting days are the same days as his Rotary meeting.
Oh, okay.
So that was kind of a bummer because he's been very good and he has some experience in putting these kinds of things together and has been very thoughtful in the questions he's asked us, and really good questions, to make us think about what we're doing. So I think he'll stay on board, but he has that conflict of time. Right now, we meet every other Friday at noon, and that's probably going to stay that way because it seems to be the best for all of us. We're hoping that by mid-August, we have the committee pretty much put together, at least the core. None of us district governors elect want to be day-to-day hands-on on it. It wouldn't make sense. But so we need to get some good people around the district. But there is good excitement and strong interest. I think it can be something very valuable and that we'll all be real proud of and can make a big difference, towards peace and in our world. So yeah, any other ideas that you might have? I'm speaking to the board now and our guests. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'll certainly reach out to you as I need help.
Okay, are there any other items for discussion? And if not,
Oh, one other thing, Clark just sent a chat about what happens at a peace conference. I'll send each of you the links to those other 3 peace conferences that we're emulating, and take a look at them. It is incredibly impressive. The scope of what they did at these peace conferences. And that is what we're looking to emulate and mirror in as best we can. And the last thing, which is really important to our district and our board members, is that these, at least the 2 in Ontario, which were quite large in scope, they actually made money. They did not run a deficit in putting this on. So they were able to get sponsors, and they did it in a very diligent manner in which they knew they were getting revenue before they spent it on certain speakers. They only paid for 1 speaker last time. And when you see the list of speakers they have and the scope of what they did, it's incredibly impressive. They got some Hollywood stars and all this kind of stuff. So singers and, entertainment, as well as some dynamic speakers. So anyway, I'm going on about this, but I'll send you the links to these, all of you, and take a look. And it's quite exciting. So
I threw one into the chat, the Birmingham one, Jim, just because I know
Oh.
Clark is in an airport. So if she wants to pop into it on her phone, but I just stuck the Birmingham one in there in the chat.
oh,
already.
great.
okay,
Yeah,
I want to move forward here and get into the finish this and move into the board meeting so we can be conscientious of our time. And so with that, I'd like to know, can I get a motion to approve the financials?
We already did the
You mean-
motion to
You mean
approve.
the
the
adjournment?
Or to adjourn? Yeah, can I get a motion to adjourn? Sorry.
Jennifer will do a motion to adjourn the finance committee meeting.
I'll second.
Great. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Darren. Okay. So we close that one, and now we go into our board of directors. So once again, I want to say welcome to Barbara, and also welcome to Valerie. Thanks for hanging in with us. And so Darren, while you were away, we took a silent vote. Now we all actually said, yeah, let's bring Darren in. So again, welcome. I appreciate greatly that you're here and that you're going to fill us in or fill out the rest of the board. And you will see, or maybe you've already seen, you should have seen from Mary, the schedule for the remaining 3 meetings that we're going to have. I do think that we need to move into having something where we're going to actually have a live meeting. And in that situation, we run up to Ukiah for it. Whether we do that in October or the one in January, I'll come up with something on that and throw out some suggestions with it. But I do think that having a live meeting would be a good idea on occasion. So rather than all Zoom all the time. All right, so I have it down. We've already accepted the financial reports submitted by the Finance Committee, or we have to approve that here?
You have to do it again.
Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the financial reports submitted by the Finance Committee?
I'll motion to approve the reports.
And a second?
Jennifer will second.
Thank you. And by the way, Darren, you're official, and Clark, you can throw your thumb up there also whenever, if on any of this. So we have a first and a second.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, perfect. So, and that's passed. The Environmental Committee. So, Barbara, I asked if you would come in and talk to us a little bit about the Environmental Committee and give us a rundown on what you're doing on that. And that will automatically roll back into what we would like to be able to do to benefit the members of the district and the clubs for for actually going along with it. I can tell you that I've only met with 2 of the clubs so far, but the enthusiasm for a continuity of this environmental program was just over the top in both of the clubs, both Healdsburg Sunrise and for the Gualala Club. And so I'm looking at great opportunities here. But Barbara, if you could go ahead and tell me, excuse me.
Okay, thanks. So I don't have a formal report, but I have a few notes written down. So we started the environment area, I guess, in Rotary a few years ago. And within our district, we started meeting as district-wide under SREG. And then Jennifer and I discovered that a lot of people didn't know anything about SREG or what it was. And so we weren't getting the participation. So some point last year, probably halfway into the year, I sent out an email to all the clubs in the district asking that if anybody in their club was interested in the environmental area focus. We scheduled a meeting and we had a lot of participation. And so Jennifer and I thought it would be better to just have an environmental team or environmental committee district-wide, and people could be members of SREG or not be members of SREG. But we created a lot more awareness about what we were doing. And we currently have 58 people district-wide that are signed up in under the environmental committee that I have on DAC-DB. That have requested from me to receive information about what we're doing district-wide. So that's a pretty nice number across the district, and we're hoping to keep building it. So and then we're also, I still want to keep the conversation alive that Jennifer had been really hoping to have happen, was to develop an e-club for the environment, thinking that that could potentially bring in new members that were not interested in all the, stuff that we do at a meeting, but really want to focus on the area of environment and potentially more younger people. So perhaps, Tom, as you're going around, the goal was not to pull people from our clubs, but people within our clubs might know people that are really interested in working on the environment and want to be part of awesome Rotary organization. And so that might be something that you could mention as you're visiting clubs. Andy Barnett from the Garberville Club has volunteered to lead up that club and has written up a format for it, and is pretty passionate about that. He's done a lot of work in Rotary around the environment. So that is a really good possibility for us still. And so a couple of things.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to comment on that very, very quickly, Barbara. So it is something that now that don't have the time constraints of district governor, it is still something that is going to be on my radar screen to help lead with that, Tom. And I'm really excited about spinning back around to this with Barbara and Andy Barnett and working on setting that up. The idea would be is that it's an e-club, but that there would be satellite clubs peeling off of that within various areas, like for example, Humboldt County or in Lake County. And so they would be satellites of the mothership essentially. And then if a satellite club got to 20, then they could become their own environmental club in an area. But again, the intent is not to pull people from existing clubs unless of course they are Rotarians that are getting ready to quit Rotary because it's not speaking to their heart. So as you're going around, just keep it in mind that that is still on the radar screen for making that happen.
And let me just add too, I mean, Barbara and I have been talking, and I went ahead and I'm going to make a couple of donations back over to the district. One of those is an environmental website that's called givingtime.org. And that has a breakout. It will give a breakout for each of the different counties so that environmental projects that happen in any of those individual counties would be able to be promoted by members of that particular committee and how that works. But that would also be a great opportunity for us to be able to put something on there. If you'd like to learn more or be a participant in what we're doing for the E-Club, then we could introduce that. The notion behind this is one that I'm working with other districts on a professional side of things. But basically, it's to be able to reach out and say, you don't have to join Rotary, but just join us and help us do something. And we can create that opportunity for someone to actually sign up and become part of. So if it's a satellite committee for Del Norte or a satellite committee for Lake County or Sonoma County or whatever, that we have that opportunity to try and create something, join others in Sonoma County, join others in Lake County, and we can build on that. And that should be ready to be reviewed by Barbara and the team. And Jennifer, I'd love for you to be seeing all of this as it starts to transpire, that we can go ahead and have something ready within the next 2 months, I'd say, and it will be ready to launch. So before our October meeting, we'd have that out there. So yeah, I'm thoroughly up for trying to see if we can gather people from outside of Rotary to come in and work and use the Rotarians that we have that are interested to be the ones to help facilitate the activities of those who are just coming into it. So.
And with that, on the note of the website, we're also working on updating the environmental page, and hopefully we can do that sooner than the next couple of months, because it still has Jennifer in there and it still has a lot of old information. So we're working on that, and Peter Hoberg from Santa Rosa Sunrise is helping with that. We've given Tom an outline of what we'd like to see on that, and that would also be great for you, Jennifer, to review. You didn't have time in the last few months to even think about that. So anyway, if you could review that. And then one of the things that I'm really wanting to emphasize, I have 3 presentations coming up in August at 3 different clubs, and that want sort of different things. One of them just wants strictly end plastic soup, and then the other ones want more Rotary information about what we're doing about the environment. But one of the things that I'm going to be really emphasizing with clubs is looking at the environmental projects that we can do, but also looking at every single thing a club does, a meeting, an event, through the lens of how is it impacting the environment. So what can you do to reduce waste? Think about what kind of decorations you're using, what can you reuse? Think about the plastics that you may potentially use that you can easily replace with other things, and so on and so forth, and just really looking at that. And then Tom's goal is to have his district conference totally zero waste, and he's going to be asking clubs about things like reusing things like the straps that we use for name badges, that we'll start taking up a collection, because every Rotarian probably has 20 straps in their closet from different events, and seeing if we can reuse things like that and just put that into our mindset as we go around the district. One of the things that was said at the convention was that Rotary has the opportunity to be on the right side of history with this environmental area. So we want to really work on promoting that. Another thing that we've talked about within our environment team meetings is doing district-wide work projects. And I've heard Tom mention that a number of times, of wanting to do more cross-pollination between clubs and doing more things where we share activities. And we've talked about that a lot within the environment area. So one idea, and I can't remember where I got everything, but I think this came from Tom, was to have a work day coming up that would be one day that the entire district has an activity at the same time, whether it's a cleanup or something that's visible, and that every Rotarian that participates wears their, this is why I was asking about the t-shirts, that every Rotarian wears a Rotarian at Work t-shirt, and perhaps we have the sandwich boards out for whatever clubs have the sandwich boards. And I was talking to a member of the Rotary Club in Sonoma Valley, I think it was. And, you know, you were all talking about the branding, and he bought one of the mugs at Jennifer's conference, and he took it to the club where he works out, and some young person saw it, and they started talking about Rotary, and the guy ended up joining Rotary because they found out that Rotary was working on the environment. So your mug, your coffee container made a difference. And so we've been talking a lot about that in our team meetings, about branding and, you know, making ourselves really visible and getting publicity and so on and so forth about what we're doing. And that, so that it helps with the environment area, it helps with Rotary membership, and perhaps bringing in more young people. We've also talked about how, you know, in some of the clubs, there are a lot of older members, and things that older members can do to support the environmental projects through advocacy, writing letters, doing some of that publicity that they may not be able to do the hands-on work. So we're talking about a lot of those things. This Wednesday, we have our next environmental team meeting, and we usually don't have a speaker because people that join the meetings have really enjoyed having the opportunity to just share ideas and give each other support of how we can get our clubs more engaged, and so on and so forth. There's a lot, it's a wonderful group of people. But this week we are going to have Don McAnell from the Russian River Keepers, and he's going to do a presentation because, you know, through Salvador and, you know, a lot of people working in the environment area are super interested in what we can do for our very own Russian River. So he's going to come and do a presentation about potential ways that Rotary, I mean, there's a lot of clubs that are already involved in doing things related to the Russian River. But I had told him that, you know, there's a lot of interest in us collaborating on that. So he's going to come to our meeting Wednesday at 6 o'clock. And so hopefully that will, you know, we'll be able to figure something out. I think his next big work day that we could potentially participate with, I think, is September the 16th, but I'm not positive. So, and then the other thing is that we have reintroduced the environmental challenge. And last year, Jennifer and I were really gung-ho, and it was really amazing what people did. It was so much fun to get the reports from the different clubs and the creativity and the passion that went into it. But it was too much. And so I rewrote the district challenge to put it into 4 areas. So the clubs have a few months to work on a specific project. And and they're basically the same concepts because, if you're working on zero waste, there's just about anything you can do with zero waste. And, all of those things are, there's so much you can do in any one area. And what we're struggling with, if anybody has ideas, is incentives for the clubs, because before it was, we had 12 challenges. And so the goal was that you had to do at least 9 of the 12. Well, now we've divided it into basically 4 challenges for the entire year. So what clubs seem to be most interested in is probably money for one, but also publicity. The Sonoma Valley Club is pretty remarkable. And what they do as far as the environment, as before the year starts, they look at what they can do to get dirty, what they can do to advocate on behalf of Rotary, how they can get publicity, how they can, get the word out about what Rotary is doing. And then the other thing they look at is education and awareness. So they invite, if they have a speaker about the river, let's say, they invite any possible groups that they can think of that are interested in that may be interested in that topic. And when they did their big project with the fruit orchard at Sonoma Developmental Center, they had a write-up in the London Times. So they did a really good job of, they had the write-ups in the local, in the Press Democrat, and then they had them in probably the Sonoma paper. And
well, let me just suggest, Barbara, that
Yes.
we have Cindy Denbo up north. So those items that might go up north, if your committee members can pass that back onto her. And I do think we have to replace, I don't believe Christine is going to be able to be the PR person for the South. So we are looking for somebody to try and do that. And that might be the way to go, to just channel it back from the clubs or from from the clubs back to the PR chair to be able to do that. One thing I wanted to ask with regard to
Are you talking about a PR chair for the district, or
for
is
the
it
district, because I think they're the ones that are going to have the better handle on trying to figure out where to get placement, where to get some publicity on it. I don't know that, I think that's the best way to go, get them involved in it. So with that, I mean, I still have to try and find somebody. I'll talk to Christine, but I have a feeling that Christine's schedule is about to get a lot more aggressive. And so consequently, we should be looking for someone that can handle the southern part of our district for the public relations. But then, so publicity is something that we don't get to have it unless we want to be able to have somebody that is guaranteed. And there's no guarantees in actually getting a press release picked up. So I'm curious about, I mean, we talked about the environmental citation, and we talked about, well, what do we do to incentivize people? Just to be able to say that you have a citation is one thing. But if it's got to be a dollar thing, then we have to bring it back and talk about what that dollar figure would be. And I would suggest that in the October meeting that we could present that and say, look, this is what we need in order to make that happen. Jennifer?
The one idea to throw into the mix, putting my foundation chair hat on right at the moment, we're working on the district grants, getting applications in from the clubs for their district grants. The district grant this year is $3,000. So not every club applies for a district grant. So it might be a case, and the application is at the end of July. The application deadline is at the end of July. The environmental grants this past year came out of the district grant money.
Nice.
So keep in contact with me. Maybe there's something that you could do that if, let's say we've got $25,000 of the district grant money that doesn't get applied for by the clubs. Maybe there's some sort of a pool of money that you could utilize as part of, if a club completes the citation, that they would, or maybe, I don't know, we'd have to work that through, but maybe it just has to be done by the end of May. next year to be able to fit within the district grant timeframe, but maybe there might be some money from district grants, so it's not even part of the 5130 budget, but being utilized some of that extra DDF from the grants. So we can talk about that offline, but that's something that you
Yeah.
guys can kind of throw into the mix to see how it might work with your challenge.
So I come back over to you, Barbara, then for your committee is to just, what is the challenge? How do you want to define it? And then what we can do is we'll know at the end of the month what the situation is with regard to grant dollars. And by our next board meeting, we'd be able to set a number and say, look, this is what we have, and this is what we can do. So, and that's probably the fastest track on that, to be able to have something with regard to dollars.
That's actually something that doesn't have to be board approved, Tom, because it's through the grants money. So it would actually be built into the district grant application that we submit to the Rotary Foundation.
So we could look at August after we know what the situation
Correct.
is and have that
That's correct.
conversation and be that much further ahead of it.
You got it.
Great.
I've already sent out the challenges, and actually the Healdsburg Club, who is just, they're so on top of things, have already submitted some of their work that they're already doing. They're amazing. That's Norm Fujita, who is just incredible. So, when I sent it out, I said, we're still working on what the prizes are going to be. So
All right.
the team agreed we could go ahead and send out the challenges, and that the prize, whatever the incentive is coming along. And
It'll be another push to promote, and I like
Yes.
it. That sounds
Yes.
great. So we'll talk about it then in August, and then come up with that. So thank you, Jennifer, for finding extra dollars.
And I would like, thank you, Jennifer. I would like to kind of figure out what, and we're going to be talking about this on Wednesday as well, of what people think of the idea of doing a district-wide pick a day, work day, everybody get out there in their work shirts and figure out whatever they need in their own community. There is so much crap to clean up in the town of Windsor. I walk to the town green every Thursday night and I'm like, oh my gosh, so much to clean up. And so, I'm sort of thinking of spreading out in Windsor.
Well, let's hold it back over. If you
Yeah.
get your committee to kind of figure out, this is the date that we'd like to do it. You don't want to go too far into the winter, or otherwise you're going to create something that's going to be spring, that we have to have enough time to plan it, to let all the clubs know. And if I'm out talking to them all and I can bring up, because I have been really on the front with regard to environment, that's the first thing I talked to and that's what I intend to do. So if you do that and you can do something that happens to next spring, that would be ideal, because we can promote that whole concept for that.
Sooner, and maybe doing a couple of times, do something, or hoping something maybe in the fall and then something later, because we feel like it could also really help with membership. And I mean, we have this vision of you're driving through Sonoma County one Saturday morning and you go through Healdsburg and wow, there's Rotarians out there. And then you go into Windsor, wow, there's Rotarians. And then you happen to pass through Santa Rosa and you see some more, that's sort of an idea, just kind of en masse. And I don't know how possible that is, but that's the vision.
Well, I'll look forward to hearing back from you after your Wednesday meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. That was a great report. Great to keep us on track with what we're doing with the environment. Speaking of reports, Jim.
Okay, I'm gonna take off. I have my sister here, so.
All right.
Okay.
See you. Say hi to Francis.
No, I will. Okay.
All right. See you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Jim, it's your time. DGE report.
Okay, can somebody put it up? Thank you. All right. So this will be quick. We've already gone through quite a bit of this. Talked about the peace conference. And the other thing was Melbourne. That was on the budget. I think we pretty much broke even on it, but I know that Jennifer and Tom was there and a few other folks. I thought it was great. I had a good time. So that was our social. There it was. And we talked about the third point, the San Francisco bid committee. Valerie is here, and I put chief of staff, and maybe I should have put lieutenant governor, but between Jennifer and Tom and Carol and Valerie, I think my tutoring has been fabulous and excellent, and I'm so grateful to the four of them, and very grateful that Valerie has agreed to stay with me. And after leading Tom through his year, I get her expertise and knowledge, and so that's a big deal for me, and I'm grateful. We did attend the first PETS meeting a couple of weeks ago. Dustin's chair. There's some concerns, and it was a great meeting, by the way, and that seems to be moving along well. And finally, there is a zone membership program going on. They happen to have the seminar going on today, which I'm not going to attend, but I'm going to attend the one on August 12th. And they've asked several of us to moderate. And Tom, who's our district chair? Patrick?
Patrick Dunn, yeah.
Yeah, Patrick. Yeah, so he's being involved in this as well. And I believe he's going to be on the involved in the seminar today, and then I'll do it on the 12th. So I'm still not real clear on how they're approaching that, but I'll be involved in that. So that's it for me. Again, it's been a great learning curve, and I'm very, very grateful to not only the folks I mentioned, but others who have steered me along, so I haven't fallen off the cliff yet.
Thank you, Jim.
You bet.
Christine sent her report in, and I would just suggest that everybody else that's left here would have seen that email to be able to read through it. But it looks like she's really moving around, and she's had quite a few different things going on. She also sent an email the other day that she is spearheading a new Interact program with Kenilworth Junior High, and that's really great news. And I went ahead, when she sent that email, I went ahead and created logos for an Interact for Kenilworth and sent those back to her so she could use those as she's moving forward with things. So that's pretty exciting news. So yeah, that's yeah. So I thank her for that, and for her report on it. And I'll just kind of keep going here, because registry for charitable trusts and tax exempt status. Carol? By the way, Carol, I'll just say it again. Thank you for all that you've been doing on this. I know that it's been a task, and I really appreciate the fact that you've been so determined to make this thing, get this thing turned around.
Thanks. Appreciate that. I'm not going to read through this whole thing because everybody can read it on their own and look at the letters, the cover letters that are attached. The current Tom and Jennifer and Jim are all aware of the situation. We do have a problem with our compliance with the Registry of Charitable Trusts, and now we have a problem with the Franchise Tax Board. I'm waiting for a response. That's the only thing I can say at this point. I haven't done anything else. I'm waiting for them to get back to me and say, yeah, you're fine, or no, you have to do A, B, and C, or whatever they do. So I don't have any update other than what I have written on here that you can see. We have provided them with so much documentation. I pity the poor person that has to go through it, but there we are. But it is important that the board be aware of it and know that we are working on it. But it is a problem at this point.
And it's not a problem that we really want to push out so far. I mean, let's see what kind of a response we get back. Can we resolve this before making it into a major, announcement? But I would hope that the board will take a look at this and that they will go ahead and read through it. And as Carol said, just to get a better understanding of what the scenario was, how we got to a point that we got to, and how we're trying to move our way past the this blockage that was there. So
Thank goodness for a trying to do a raffle right.
Thank goodness that we tried to do that raffle.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay, great. The emerging Rotary leaders. So I know last time out, Jennifer, you were talking about someone from Sonoma Springs as a potential on this. I know currently, I think we had it. If we look at the budget for that, and what can we afford to do? This, fortunately, it's in San Diego. Airfare wouldn't be too dramatic, but then it's just the cost of the housing, for down there, for having somebody in there. I mean, it's ideal when we can have our leadership scene should be growing, and the way that we grow that is by trying to have individuals participate in the Institute, and I'm really a fan of that. I'm a little concerned just about, again, budgetary situations for this particular year and how much money we have to be able to allow for somebody to go down, cover the cost of the meals, the housing, and the cost of Institute to get in there. So that's why trying to find if it's one individual, or do we try and find two individuals and just pare down on what we're doing on it? Open to hearing opinions.
Well, my first opinion on that is it really depends on the quality of the people we want to send. I mean, if we have two folks that are, that high quality, that and I'm sure there are, but that can go, then I think we try to make it send to. But if we have one individual star that we really want to go, then I think that's where we spend the money. So I think it's predicated on who we would like to send.
So last year we sent Clark Swan,
Mhm.
who, obviously is on our board here, and then Christine Redco were the two that we sent last year. And, I was one. I went as an ERL many years ago. I think, Tom, you did too, right? I don't know if Jim ever did. Did you go as an ERL ever, Jim? Yeah, it's a pretty cool program. I think it's a matter of, identifying that list of who is that emerging Rotary leader and the timing of it. You look at Clark, she's just taken off like wildfire here. And but I agree with you that we just probably have to come up with a budget and then backfill in to that. And I do also agree that if it's one or two, we need to identify that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I could tell you that, I've had just opportunities to meet and talk to different people, and I had not talked to the individual, the woman from Sonoma Twilight that you were, or yes,
Sonoma Valley
Springs or Sonoma Valley, that you had mentioned. But I believe that all of us as leaders have the opportunity to try to find somebody to project into that. And as I mentioned before, and Darren, who I'm talking to on this, Isabel Acornio. Anyhow, Isabel was somebody too that I felt really had an interest to try to move forward and get into a bigger position. Now, currently, she is the president of the Roanoke Park Cotati Club. Am I correct on that, Darren?
Yes, you are, and it's pronounced Acanero.
Acanero, thank you. And so I don't know how that affects it. If would we pull someone that's currently in a position of president. But I think that she's kind of given an indication to me that she would like to move forward with learning more about Rotary and being more involved at a deeper level. And that to me is pretty exciting. And when you find somebody that that has that interest, that moves me. So that was one that I definitely have been thinking about also.
Well, Tom, how do we decide then on the dollars, on the budget?
Well, we talked to Carol. But I thought, yeah, we talked to Carol and find out, I mean, what our total dollars are. The registration has been just the pits with regard to the Institute. It really has been poorly done. The machines are not working. It's like some people have gotten in and others haven't. I have yet to be able to pay for my registration there. So that's kind of convoluted, but that's another side thought on it. I think that it was interesting. Clark, that was saying that, we could ask the clubs of the leaders to pitch in. So if in fact we have, $1,500 or something allocated right now for that. And Carol, I don't know if you have numbers there in front of you, but if whatever that number is, that if we were to divide that and give, $750 to the person, and then ask the clubs, we'd like to send one of your members as a ERL to the Institute, and we need a little bit more funding in order to make that happen. That to me, so what do we have on it?
So I don't see a,
There is we do.
right here, $3,000 is what we have allocated for 24-25.
That
23-24.
it seems to me that given that it's San Diego, that we definitely would have the opportunity to send 2 people at that amount of money.
What, Tom, when you say there's a problem with registration, are you talking about the amount of money or just?
No, I'm talking about just registration and entirely just.
Oh, their process is having a problem.
Yeah. And they put it up, they take it down, they put it up. Currently, it's still down. Well, I would think that with $3,000, that if we allocated $1,500 for an ERL, that would be an adequate number to cover the cost of the registration and also the airfare down there.
It would be interesting to me to have it be, there seems to have been some question about what is, when we put something in the budget, what does that mean? What can the person claim? Does that mean that in this case, if we send 2, that they can each claim $1,500, and when they've claimed the $1,500, they're done? Or
yeah, I mean, we need to be able to cover their cost of the actual Institute. So we'd have that cost involved, and the transportation to and from the Institute. That's basically what we're covering. And Clark, correct me if I'm wrong. Well, you're just throwing fingers up and fires and all that, but it seems to me that if there's additional costs, that falls back over to the individual. That if you're going out, it seems to me that's how it works. That I remember back. But for me, it was many, many years ago as an ERL, back when it was still a closed institute. But they covered the cost of my institute, to be a participant, and they also covered the cost of transportation, and that was it. So that's
the way it should be, is that the cost should be covered. I've registered for this year's Institute, just as a matter of record here. The registration for the Institute is $790.
Yeah. And
so when you're looking at a $1,500 budget, the registration itself is $790, which includes the meals. You have to be able to pay their airfare and mileage to and from the airport and parking.
Well, yeah, airfare shouldn't be more than $500.
Right. Just
all depends.
Anyway, you're starting at the base of $790.
Yeah. I think that gives us the ability to try and to look to 2 people. I come back to my question though. I mean, if I were to kind of pursue the idea of Isabel being able to participate, what's your thoughts with regard to her being a current president? Would that be something that would be, I can't imagine, I mean, she could get somebody to fill in if her meeting was on that on one of the days for the Institute. The Institute for most people is going to begin on, isn't it? We sent them down on a Wednesday or Thursday. Thursday, I would think. Thursday, Friday, Saturday are the 3 days on it.
Well, her
So-
meetings are on Tuesday.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that that's probably one of the things just in the concept of time and also this being a board meeting, I think we probably ought to have that as we kind of
Sidebar.
identify,
Okay.
our list of the ERLs. Clark put in the chat, I wonder if creating a leadership line might be helpful in moving forward. If we want to support new and younger leaders in an equitable way, we might need to increase the budget for that. And the main thing is making sure that on these ERLs that their expenses are covered to go to Zone Institute. So and that's going to be a really important thing. But I think we probably need to create sort of a list of potential candidates, because it is a, it's a privilege and it's a recognition to be able to go as an ERL and to be chosen. But it's probably a side conversation that we need to have.
Well, yeah, great opportunity though for everybody that's on here to be able to provide some direction with regard to who their recommendation might be and
Absolutely.
what, and then go from there. So, okay. Well, if we leave it at that, I think we have enough money to look at 2 people. So if everybody sends in, then we can have that discussion and we can talk about those individuals as potential leaders and potential participants. So thank you on that. The Ken Moulton Leadership Academy, I think the last I saw, I know that some people are already asking, hey, when is this going to happen? We have people that are willing to sign into it, but I'm not really certain who is really in charge. I sent messages off to Wolf and Maureen Merrill as the district trainer, but I hadn't heard anything back on it. So it's kind of up in the air, but I would like to know that we're going to go forward with it. Has it been last year, or was it Wolf that was the chair of that, Jennifer?
Yeah, it was actually Mike Merrill was very involved in it, and Wolf also was the chair of it. Those were kind of the 2 that were main, and then Maureen was involved in it as well.
All right,
but Wolf was the main lead.
Yeah, I'll continue to press on them. I know Mike and Maureen are off celebrating an anniversary someplace in Europe right now. So, and they should be back, but we should try to push for some sort of dates on that. Since we had dropped the other program, which was the 9-month or 8-month program for training on Rotary leadership, I think this is the way that we should go for right now until we find some sort of a program that can offset the previous program that we had been using. And then the foundation report. Oh, hey, Jennifer, that's you. Thank you. There's our foundation chair. Thank you.
I know I was retired for a sum total of 2.5 minutes the other day. Okay, so I'll just do this very quickly. So foundation report, I had my first foundation meeting with the foundation team this past week, and I'm looking at a date for a foundation celebration. I threw out the idea of doing just 1 instead of 2, changing a little bit of the format of how the recognitions, the club recognitions and such are done to be more inclusive, north to south. I'm waiting to hear back from CNS Waste in Ukiah about doing our foundation event there. And the date that I'm looking at is Saturday, October 28th. And the idea would be to incorporate in a foundation seminar / membership seminar in the morning-ish, maybe starting around 10 o'clock. And then the facility, for those of you that have not been to the CNS Waste facility, very much ties into our environmental focus. Less than 7% of all of the waste that comes into CNS actually goes to the landfill. They have an incredible recycling and composting program there. And it's actually a really, really nice facility with a really big event location and a very cool bar that they've built in there. So I've been in communication with them about just making sure I can secure that date. And then also the foundation team is having some discussion as to, a single event versus 2. But I really I really am going to be pushing for a single event this year to try it and see if we can make it kind of bring everybody together a little bit more. But the event date I'm looking at is the 28th of October. So it doesn't lay over the top of Institute or anything like that. So let me know if that is a date that works for all of you. We have 40, let's see, we had 38 clubs out of the 46 get qualified for district grants. This year, Terry Derinick from Kelseyville Club is doing a fantastic job as the district grant subcommittee. And I think that might be the highest number of clubs that we've actually had become qualified for a district grant. The grant amount this year is $3,000. So the applications have already been starting to come through from those clubs to get those applications in. The deadline for the application is a hard deadline on July 30th, August 1st, actually. And so we'll be going through all those. We'll know exactly how much money we're working with once we get those applications in by the end of the month. But she's doing a great job, as you saw from Carol's report on the grants that were handed out last year. And then, of course, we have a record number, I think, this year of clubs that are getting involved. So anyway, it's cruising right along. I'm on the steep end of the learning curve with regards to the foundation chair hat. But I have Kevin, who's been doing it for 4 years, and then just a wonderful foundation team. So I'm learning. I've got an appointment next week with Jeff Cochran, who's our TRF, our foundation representative from Chicago. So he's going to do some training with me as well. So that is the foundation report that I have for now. Anybody who has a question, and yes, that is my goal, is to incorporate both foundation and membership training in that day.
Thank you. And I'm really delighted to hear that there's so many clubs that are gathering together to be able to make an impact. The Mendocino Rescue, Search and Rescue is one that has a collection of people. And then also the conversations and the moving forward with hopefully with the Rio Del playground. Those were two pretty impressive projects that are clustered and grouped together. So great stuff. Thank you. Well, we don't have Patrick on board here, but these are the numbers for, we had 2020 last year, and it appears like we're at 1897 members this year. So we've seen that decline. I talk about three things to every one of the clubs that I'm going into. The first is the environment. The second is the membership situation. And the third is to bring up the mental health programs that we're working on. And I think that on the membership, I mean, I'm just trying to promote a variety of things here. I know that Patrick has been working on a couple of different programs, one for a veterans group, and we have the Native American Indians, Indian Federation, that we're looking at trying to get a program happening with that. But I think that there's other opportunities. We talked today about the environmental, the potential to have that e-club in the district. And I think that that's a great opportunity for pulling in new members. So membership just becomes the big thing. I don't walk into it saying, oh, doom and gloom, but at the same time, asking the room to go out and invite somebody they know just to come in and hang out at one of their events, just invite somebody that they know to find out what it is to be a part of a group that has similar qualities and thoughts and hope in the world. So that's my on that. Yeah, pardon me?
I'll make a comment on that drop in number, just for clarification for people as well. So because I know somebody's probably wondering, is it across the board that the club memberships dropped, or is there something more specific in there that is dialing in on that? There was two things that happened last year. The first thing was the Del Norte Rotary Club up in the Crescent City area. At the end of the 2021-22 year, that club, the Del Norte Rotary Club, decided to disband, and most of the members of that Del Norte Club left Rotary. That club had a fairly large membership, but most of them were not engaged. And so that club did not actually go off of the membership rolls with the Rotary International until the beginning of the 2022 year. So that happened in July of 2022. So that was a big chunk of membership because it wasn't cleared off before the end of the Rotary year. So that was one, the Del Norte club went away. And then the second one is that, as was mentioned before, we lost the Middletown club, which was, it's a very painful, it's a very painful place for me on that for a multitude of different reasons. And I'm happy to talk with anyone offline as to more detail on that in the reference of time. But there was no way to save that club. And I wanted to make sure that that was cleared off before the end of the 22-23 Rotary years, so that Tom was able to start with a fresh number. So there were 2 clubs that came off during that 22-23, and so that's the majority of that drop that you're seeing. But you should be starting, Tom, with a very clean membership number on that. A lot of clubs are growing. A lot of clubs grew over the last 12 months. A lot of them brought in a lot of new members, and there's a lot of excitement going on out there. But we just have to continue to make sure that it's not so much about the number, it's about engagement. And if we can keep people engaged and find where Rotary is hitting them in their heart, then they're not going to leave. And hopefully we won't lose any more clubs and we can add clubs. So that is a clarification on that number.
Yeah. And we will. There we go. Yeah, there's the commitment to it. All right. So unless there's anyone that has anything in addition to this, then, and is there any other discussion that is needed? Well, then I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I motion that we adjourn today's meeting.
Darren, this could be your moment.
I second.
Cool. Great. We got a first and a second. If there's no further discussion, then I'll ring the bell. Ding, we're adjourned. Thank you all for attending. Thank you all for your input. And I look forward to some of these offline things that we're going to be talking about. And I also look forward to us making it or getting a decision together with regard to October and whether or not we can be live and in person. It'll either be October or January. So, all right.
Good job, Tom.
Great.
Good
Well,
job,
thank you.
Tom.
Good job, Tom.
Congratulations.
Thank you.